as a school that if we wanted to, Eastwood had a very proud history of doing musicals. And Rowley felt that the proud history of doing musicals was sliding because we weren't bringing in students capable of doing that. We are also very aware of the fact that there was no place in Waterloo County where there was an arts program or an arts package. So Rowley, this was 86, Rowley said to me one day, he said, Jimmy, we've got to do something to bring students to Eastwood so that they can work together, because it's an absolute tipping point. You can't have three great stars and nobody else. To be part of an arts package, as well, actually we called it the arts package then, there has to be X number of students. And so Rowley and I thought that I thought it sounded like a great idea, why somebody hadn't thought of it before. We approached the music department, the art department, and the drama department. Soon recognized that we would also need dance. We went off, we started our grand tour. Wolf Baxter supported us. It was amazing. We got to go to the Etobicoke School of the Arts, the Earl Haig School of the Arts. We went as far as Ottawa, and we looked at what arts programs were doing there. One of the things that we decided as a group is that we did not want to have a dance program, a drama program, an arts program, and a music program. Our whole idea was that we were looking at an integrated arts package where the experience of the arts would come together. Rowley and I were too ignorant. We had never heard of the thing called the triple threat, somebody who can sing, dance, and we just wanted students to be enriched through the experience. That was 86. The trips started in 87, and that's when we approached the board for the first time. About that time, the Ministry of Education came out with a guideline indicating that school boards could have magnet programs, could have. So we decided to get moving. We put together a program that was going to be an integrated arts. The very first piece that we did when even before we had enrollment, we had to hire a dance teacher. And the best thing we did was hire Janice Stone, because she became the absolute pillar. She pulled everything together. She was never afraid of having her dancers sing. She encouraged the dance minors. She never once looked at us and said, why are the thundering herd coming down? Because people who were in music and who were in art perhaps as majors, she made them welcome. She unfortunately made them too welcome in some respects, and they discovered a love of dance, which became expensive. So that's and then now we're into the latter part of 86, and we are going to be the first magnet school in Waterloo County. We had to figure out how we were going to do this. We first put out bulletins to all of the elementary guidance counselors. We were not inundated with applications. We knew we had to, since we had given permission to hire a dance teacher, we somehow had to get students. So going with the route of the guidance counselors, just sending them out notifications that that type of thing would exist, didn't work. At that point, I was in special education, and I went to the enrichment teachers. And I asked for permission to do presentations in as many of the feeder schools that were very close to us as possible. I got that, and I was able to do that because everybody in the arts package believed that it was arts enrichment, that students who were academically sound or who would be brought along academically by the arts were the kind of students we wanted. That we didn't, this is going on further, one of the schools we went to had a very, very excellent dance program. And the head of the program said, you won't see any of my best dancers here because they don't graduate from high school. Rolly Mueller was horrified by that. He felt that given the length of a dancer's career, that if she didn't have, or he didn't have at least high school, that you were robbing them. And what happens after 5 years if you decide you don't want to dance? Or what happens in your 5th year of high school? You discovered that you really want to be a physicist. So it was important to have academics as well as the arts. So after going with essentially that pitch to the enrichment teachers, we got a trickle of applicants. I then went out and did my traveling road show to a larger number of high schools, senior public schools. And it was then that we got our first numbers of applications. Ms. Stone is at the back, and she'll probably remember one of our very special applicants, who we shan't talk about. We got some applicants from some places that we weren't expecting them, but we gave everybody respect. And even if they did not have a formal background in music, they were welcome to audition. They were given an ear test. And for dance, it wasn't a matter of, did you come in as a fully formed competitive dancer? No. Could you learn to follow a choreography? Did you have a certain sense of rhythm? And that's Janice's. She did that. So after that first year, I then stupidly believed that we were established. So we waited for the applications again. And the traveling road show had to go out again, and I went to each and every one of the schools. This time, however, I brought a couple of students with me, and I let the students do the talking. And they talked about, for the first time in their lives, in some respects, they felt totally wanted and valued. And that was precisely what we had hoped for. A place where students could come together to work. And that's when the numbers began to grow. So that was 86, 86, 87, 88, and 89. And 89, because my son, I'm also a parent of 2 artsies. And that was a big question, by the way. Should we allow them to call themselves artsies? Was that a negative? Was that a negative? Should they be called artsies? Rowley said, they've called themselves that. They think it's nice. Let them call themselves artsies. So my son auditioned for the arts package. Interestingly enough, against my better wishes, because I was here at Eastwood, and he was in French enrichment, in the French immersion program. I wanted him to go to Grand River. Bob said he enjoyed singing, was part of the Cambridge Kiwanis Boys Choir, and I said, yes, but you'll have to dance. Well, that almost stopped him. He unfortunately came for the audition, was accepted, did quite well, met Mrs. Stone then, and she was only positive and encouraging. My son came to Eastwood. There was an experience. I decided that it would be best for me to leave Eastwood for a couple of years, so I transferred out. And for 2 years, I left. During that period of time, my daughter had been attending enough of the performances here at Eastwood that she decided that in her heart, she wanted to be an artsy, because people could sing, could dance, could draw, and could play a musical instrument. My daughter actually came in as a double major. Most people forget that, as vocal and violin. And she was going to do vocal, violin, and drama. And that was her thing. Well, the violin went by the wayside fairly soon. John Moses, being very kind and very patient, still could not create a Yasha Heifetz from my daughter's hands. But she loved every minute of it, and she still speaks very, very, very fondly of John Moses. And that was my experience of the arts package in the early years coming up. It was difficult. And if it weren't for Rowley, Wilf Baxter, and large part Ray Daniels, Terry Kobayashi, and then Janice Stone, now Ms. Price, the arts package never would have developed, because they gave the students precisely what they said. Our very first integrated arts package presentation was done at St. Andrew's Church. I believe it's St. Andrew's Church, and it was a Christmas pageant, which brought together dance, vocal music, and a dramatic representation of what happened on stage, a dramatic reading. We then grew into a little bit more elaborate things than that. Years later, you can probably, Mrs. Wilson still at the back of the room, was it in Chris's third year that we did Yanomamo? Yanomamo? Second year?
Grade 10. Early, yeah.
That was it.
Heinrich's Christmas was the first one.
Brother Heinrich's Christmas. And do you remember fundraising was always a major part of the arts package? And do you remember the Binghamton cold spaghetti dinner?
Yes.
Oh, that was an awful dinner.
Do you want some salt?
That would be fine, thanks.
This is good. Pause for just 1 second.
Yeah.
I just got to switch cards.
Okay.
That was, okay, that was the very